Welcome everyone to another Friday Mortgage Coach Mastermind. I am your host today, Todd Bookspan, the founder of Win by Noon, and I'm super excited you're here. We are really close. This is like number 298, I think. We're almost to episode 300, where really we've come every Friday now for over 6 years to really bring some type of knowledge, teaching, masterminding to all of you. So we're always grateful that you're here, whether you're watching this live or watching it on video. And most of you know that it's gotten a whole lot better this past year as we've had none other than Deborah Bird from Plug and Play SM as our co-hostess with the mostest. What's up, Deborah?
You know, y'all just needed some female blood to shake things up a little bit.
Well, yeah, and then look at you
fun.
now, like you're you continue to up your game, like your studio looks cooler every day.
Well, I'm actually at the nerd headquarters today. So we've adjusted her studio a bit because of our podcast that we're shooting. So little secret, this tabletop is not on. It's like not connected. So when I first leaned up against, I was like, oh God, this thing's moving. So it just shows that done is better than perfect. You can still make it happen.
You know, I think that's so critical, right? I think that's where everyone gets stuck. I did finally find my book, War of Art, that we talked about. I think I'm one of the mortgage or one of the Win by Noon masterminds that now is coined Random Thoughts from Deb and Todd. But I found the book finally, and it was sitting in my drawer behind me. And I had actually read it on a trip to Costa Rica. And the only reason I know that is the bookmark I found was from there. But it talks about resistance and the whole reason why people procrastinate. And so it's just a really fascinating read. And I think the biggest thing you just said is that done is better than perfect. Most of us are really trying. You know, I always joke, I got a drawer behind me over here on my left that's full of $1 million ideas that I got 80-90% done and never executed on. So that's where coaches come into play. And today is all about why you should attend real estate agent events. And the event that you and our guest that I'll let you introduce in just a sec just attended was a Tom Ferry coaching event. And so I think not only is it great to attend real estate events, but when you're attending them with other agents that you know that are learning, you're learning the same things alongside of them, whether it's a big national event or a local event. I know there's huge things there. So let's, without further ado, let's let you introduce Tim.
So Tim Lamb is based out of Iowa. And when I first met him, it was probably about, I want to say a year ago. Would you say, Tim?
Yep, maybe a little more. Yeah.
About a year. And what I love most about Tim is the questions that he asked, which was something that one of the speakers at the Tom Ferry Summit had talked about, is the quality of your life and your business is in direct correlation to the quality and quantity of questions that you ask. So Tim is someone that has always been a student of the game. It's no surprise that he uses Mortgage Coach and Win by Noon to be successful, but he also coaches and works with real estate agents in a unique way. So Tim, welcome to the stage. And if you would, just go ahead and tell the people maybe who don't know you just a little bit about your, production, your business, give them a little bit of an intro for you.
Yeah, super cool to be here today, guys. Thanks for the invite. Again, Tim Lamb. I grew up in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, still where I live now. Production-wise, I did 306 loans last year. I think I've got 145 closed so far this year. So not quite on the pace that we were last year with all the refinances going away, but working through this, I hate the word shift. I like the market of now. We're working into this market of now. So working on that and continuing to grow. And I was at a great event this week, the Tom Ferry Success Summit.
See, you just used magic words right there.
That's it. It's all
the
magic.
Shift. Yeah.
I just hate that word. I just feel like it's such a negative thing. No one wants to be shifted around or no one wants to be changed. They want to know what the market of now is. So if we can put that into our vocabulary, this is the market of now. We can't look back 60 days. We can't look back 6 months. We can't look forward 6 months. We can only talk about the market of now. And it's just been a shift that I've been talking about with a lot of my coaching clients, with my team, and personally with myself.
So go ahead, Todd.
Well, I also want to highlight the fact that Deb, you were at the event as well. And again, that's one of the things that you've always done is attend mortgage events, real estate events, because that's what you're using to grow yourself and grow the content that you're using in social media. And I just really want to compliment Tim real quick because Tim's been part of this community for a long time. And I think Tim is proof that, progress is made by committing to yourself. Because when I look at you, Tim, now, you always did a really good job when you came on and did videos. But when I look at your videos today, your content today, your camera setup today, just everything about you, you've just continued to up your game and become more comfortable with video. And so oftentimes I find loan officers who are like, oh yeah, but Tim is just so good. And I'm like, well, but you know what? I knew Tim when he wasn't as good. And so just, kudos to you for the growth that you've gone on, that personal journey, because I think it shows.
Well, I appreciate it. And I think that we always think like we got to make these giant changes or we got to make these giant shifts. I just want you to encourage like 1%. If I can just get 1% better and a little bit better, and then you'll look back and go 6 months from now and be like, I didn't even know who that guy was 6 months ago on this video, but now I'm much more confident. I'm much more comfortable. It just flows a lot better now. But if you don't start, you're never going to get there. So I love these events that we go to, but sometimes we put these huge mega stars on stage and people can't see that far through the forest, but they could see the person that's doing 5 loans a month or 7 loans a month. When you're talking about people doing 500 loans a month, that's a hard thing to think about. So just think about your challenge, your day-to-day, and you're 1% better. And then you'll look back 6 months from now and be like, wow, I accomplished a lot. Don't think about the big guys, think about you.
So can I ask you, Tim, then, to both Todd and your point, what are some of those daily activities that if you're talking to the Tim from a couple years ago, what would you tell that person that must be done each day in your calendar before noon that helped you get to where you are today? Like if you had picked the top 3 activities.
I'll just start with the video one. Number 1, on my phone, I've got the Notes app. And every time someone asks me a question, I put that in my Notes app. So that way I don't have to go back and think through the video thing like, okay, what video am I going to shoot today? I can just go back into my Notes app and like, all right, I've been asked this question 7 times now, or here's a list of questions. So I'm not trying to create stuff every day. I'm just documenting what questions are being asked of me on a daily basis. So we try to make it too hard and too difficult. Just answer questions. Because you know what? If you've been in this business long enough, you get the same questions over and over and over again. And that's one of the reasons I got into the video is I was sick of answering, what is an escrow account? Or when do I need earnest money? I mean, it's the same question every time. Now I can put clients to my YouTube channel and be able to say, hey, here's the answer to these questions. But don't think about creating, think about documenting or making sure that you've got those questions answered. Is do that. The really simple thing on the video side of things.
So how did you get over hitting the actual record button? Because I feel like just with the clients that I have and work with, and, I send that email every Friday. That is your playbook of next week. Like, here's possible video hook ideas and here's even the script. But yet, and they say they want to do video and they know how to do it, but they still don't hit the record button. What would you say for advice for those people to just, darn it, hit the record and go?
Simple question. Do you want to remain a secret LO, or do you want to expose your brand to the market? That's the question. If you want to continue doing one-to-one type of scenarios or one-to-one relationship building, great, stay with where you are and continue with what you're doing. If you want to do more of a one-to-many approach and build a brand and build who you are, you've got to leverage video. And the only way to do that is hit play and start doing it. So sometimes, again, back to making it too difficult. We just make it too difficult sometimes. And if you just think of it that way, do I want to be a secret LO and continue doing the business the way that I am? Or do I want to build a brand and build my recognition and people find me and search me out? That's really what we want. And I kind of looked at it as like this. I can have one conversation with a borrower every day, but if I can have the same conversation and 100 people or 52 people see it on social, then my brand is going to build. And personally, that makes me feel better. I feel like I'm educating the market. They know potentially now what's going on. And if we can give those clients just a little confidence through video, then they'll reach out to you and say, hey, I don't want to be bad, but I don't feel so dumb about this process. Like a lot of people have a hard time raising their hand and saying, I don't know what's going on. And I'm embarrassed about that. So if people can get that education, then they'll eventually raise their hand when they got just a little confidence. And then if you can get a hold of them, then they'll reach out to you and get further down the path and they'll ultimately buy a house.
That's awesome.
I think that's really key. All right, so shift gears then and talk about the event itself. Like, I know you're a coach for Tom Ferry, so that's probably why you went, but let's sort of put the perspective on it. When I think real estate agent event, just so you all know, it could be something as small as going over to let's call out Keller Williams, who does, I think, the most teaching of any brokerage that I know. And I think most brokerages teach, but I can tell you that when I was a producing loan officer, there was a Keller Williams office where I was friends with the leadership, and I took every class that they offered alongside of their agents so I could speak the same language that they speak. I'm bold. And so, I joke because in fact, I interviewed a real estate agent yesterday, and she said, oh yeah, I hated that. I hated the calls I had to do in that class. And I'm like, I'm bold. And then she was like, looked at me differently because she knew I'd been through the training that they went through. So for me, it was always to be alongside of them, to learn what they're learning, to talk the language that they're talking, just as one of the reasons. So for you, as you're going to a real estate event, like what are the top reasons you would tell LO to do it? And then what types of events would you ask them to target?
All right. So first of all, can we all agree that we've got two types of clients that we need to take care of? We've got our personal clients that we're dealing with, giving the mortgage out to, and then we've got these referral partners that we're working with to help them grow their business. If they grow their business, that'll naturally, hopefully, grow our business as well. So we've got two different paths that we need to go down as an LO. We got the consumer that we're helping out, and then we got the referral partners that we got. So that's kind of the baseline for me, is like, all right, I've got two people that I need to serve and help with either their financing and or help them grow their business. So that's kind of the baseline for me, to be able to say that. And the second thing is, if you can talk their language on what they're doing, that moves you up in that value proposition. Todd, Deborah, Todd Duncan, Dave Savage, all like, you got to add value to the agent partners world if we pick those people out. If you don't know what their struggles are, what their challenges are, what technology they're using and so forth, then how can you help them? So by going to these events, you get opened and exposed to what's really working well. What's the challenges that a real estate agent has? What is the new technologies that's coming out? What are all the things that are happening in their side of the desk now that you can bring back to them and say, hey, did you know this on your Google My Business page? We should tweak that in your space, and that will help you draw more clients into your business. So for me, simply getting exposed to what they're seeing from their side of the desk or through their eyes is a tremendous opportunity to add value back to those agent partners.
Well, and just at the event itself, I mean, we have an entire playbook. I think it was almost 200 pages where Tom shared the best scripts, best postcard ideas. I mean, talk about a content library from the best of the best who are practicing in real estate, that then if you were a loan officer and you take it back and you chunk it down, which I have all these folders where I would take from Brian Buffini or Tom Ferry or Todd Duncan, Ben Kinney. I mean, all these different real estate gurus, and I would put them in these manila folders back in the day to separate like per categories or departments of all my little bag of tricks, that if I were meeting with an agent and I understood that my job is to help them make more money and help them be more successful, because in return, it helps me be more successful, then what are my bag of tricks and how do I know if it works? And if it's speaking their language based off their needs. So I think, Tim, that is perfect, because we do always talk about providing more value, but how do you know what's truly valuable to someone unless you ask? Because you may be presenting information that you are assuming is valuable because you're going off of just common questions or your own experience, when you don't take the time to invest and ask the right questions to then learn what would be the biggest impact for that agent's business. Because you could have a solo agent or a team and it's going to be different.
Yeah.
So let's go through. So this was in Dallas, so you're based out of Iowa.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how many of your agents maybe came with you or were traveling from your same market center, but explain to people why you would take the time to travel. And it was Tuesday. I think you got in on Monday, right?
Sunday through Thursday. Yep.
Oh,
Sunday through Thursday.
okay.
Yep.
So Sunday through Thursday. I mean, that's time away from your practice, which you don't have as many production partners or assistants helping you on the back end, like some.
Yep.
But why would you come all the way to Texas and choose this event? And did anyone come with you?
No one from my market came with me at this event. There was a couple other people from a market a couple hours away from me that I connected with when I was there, but not specifically from my market. Everybody came. But let me walk you through what I did pre-event, during the event, and now what I'm going to do post-event. All right.
Okay.
So let's just say you pick out your top 10 partners. So I reached out to my top 10 partners and said, hey, I'm going to the Tom Ferry Summit event in August. Do you want to come? Simple question. Like, do you want to go and help grow your business? Let's go together. You and I can brainstorm and think about and bring back all the ideas together. In my market this year, the mega camp's going on at the same time. There's other events that were going on. So no one took me up on the offer. So I'm like, no big deal. I just said, all right, if they're going to go yes, then we'll hang out and do what we can do down there together. If no, then my follow-up question is, what are you looking to change in your business over the next 18 months that I can look for while I'm at the Tom Ferry Summit? And then we could then sit down and have a conversation about, and maybe we can implement that strategy together. So it could be anywhere from database, it could be lead generation, it could be YouTube, whatever it is. So I went into this event with 20 questions or challenges that my agent partners had. And I'm just making notes on my stuff like, hey, Deborah needs to be talking about this, and Matt needs to talk about this. And this is, okay, boom, boom, boom. So in the event, I'm texting the agent partners that I have, found it, got your information, can't wait to catch up with you when I get back. So now I'm going to take all of that information that they told me that they were having a challenge with or something that they were wanting to implement. I've searched out the piece for them. Now I'm going to reach out to them and say, hey, got your stuff. When can we meet? We're going to have coffee, lunch, whatever it is, to be able to do that one-to-one with your top partners. So again, it was, you want to go? No, you're not going to go. What's the biggest challenge that you have in your business right now? Or potentially, what's the next thing that you want to implement in your business over the next 18 months? While I'm at the event, I'll find it. Then we'll get back together afterwards and reconnect and talk about how we can implement this together.
That's huge, right? A lot of you have call reluctance, and that call reluctance always comes about because you don't know what to say. And so just think about it. I mean, look around. And again, I think anytime you can travel with, so unfortunately, Tim, you didn't get to travel with people, but if you can travel with someone, I think that even elevates it, another notch, right? And sometimes it's even, you've got the realtors you can travel with, but then the other part of it is you can also travel with friends or coworkers or, or somebody else. I'm going to a Keller Williams Wealth event. A friend of mine, Brett Tanner, is putting it on. He teamed up with Gary Keller to run it. It's in Austin at the end of next month. And you know what? I invited a financial planner that I know. I teach his organization. And so I knew it was something he might be interested in. And then I invited John Downs, who's another loan officer who's been in this community a lot, to attend with me. So I'm actually going to have some other people that'll have two more sets of eyes from friends. And then guess what? There's going to be 190 something realtors in this room of 200 at the event. And, I may or may not know any realtors, but if there are there, guess what? I'm going to certainly become their accountability partner. I'm going to certainly, ask them for what they learned, what were their top takeaways and all of those things. But the bottom line is Tim's just giving you a reason to invite somebody. He's giving you a reason to do the follow-up calls. And I think that's where we all get overwhelmed by it. It's just not that hard, Tim. You made it sound really, really easy.
That's weird, Todd. Your invite for me to that event must have gone to my spam.
Hey, Deb, you want to go to that event? It's just up the road from you.
Yes.
All right, perfect. Anyone else who's going to be in Austin, it's the 26th. Just text me and I don't know. I think there's still space in the event. It's how to build a roadmap to $50 million in wealth.
Wow.
So
Awesome.
through real estate.
Tim,
Brett owns over 200. He owns over 200 rental properties, and he has another mastermind that I actually went to earlier this year. I won't say what it cost, but I can say it cost 5 times the cost of the other ticket. And it was a small group of real estate agents, but same thing, right? Sitting in a room with real estate agents. And I feel like the class I sat in was like the graduate school level. And so this one's sort of the entry level class that I feel like I missed by not being part of his other mastermind earlier. So it'll be a lot of fun. I think it's an opportunity for someone who's looking to invest. I mean, I own properties I have for 20 years, but I'm looking to take my investment game to the next level and then also be able to teach others how to do it.
So let's go back for a second to the question that I asked. What's the biggest challenge that you're having in your business, or what do you want to implement into your business in the next 18 months? Those two are gold mine questions to figure out what that agent is either challenged with or if they're looking to grow. They're like, all right, I'm going to go and I'm going to build out a YouTube channel, all targeting first-time home buyers or people that are moving to, Austin, Texas, whatever it is. Now you have the ability to, number one, as you said, Todd, hold them accountable to what they say they were going to do. 2, walk alongside the path with them. And then now you can go down the struggles, the wins, the successes, all that kind of stuff with them. And now you're getting into their business. I think sometimes loan officers do kind of like this shotgun approach. Like, I'm going to send out all of this information and hopefully an agent finds value in it. But if you could laser in on what their challenges, what their opportunities are, what they're planning to do, and then now add that extra value to them, hold them accountable for what they're doing, walk down the path with them, that is where I think the relationship is built or enhanced in some situations. And you both continue to grow at that point. So you can both learn whatever that topic is. So it just dives into their business much better if you ask those two questions and then have some value to add back.
So
Do you
Tim,
feel
do
like
you
you
have
get a lot of
regular
pushback on that
meetings?
accountability? Oh, that's funny. We're going down the same path. Okay, you go down your regular meeting path because that's the accountability question I was asking.
I was gonna say, do you have regular business planning meetings with your top partners that is working on the business and looking at numbers and not just those status update calls? Like, how often are you having those, and are you?
Infrequently, but that's on my plan to be much more consistent with those types of things. Because what I found in the coaching side of things, if you listen to the Tom Ferry event, I don't know, he probably said accountability coaching 19,000 times over the 4 days that we were there, which is nobody wants it, but everyone wants the results that you get from it. Nobody wants the accountability, but we all want the results that you get from being held accountable. So if you say you're going to do something, if you have someone that walks along with you and says, all right, did you get it done? Why not? When are you going to get it done? What came in place in front of it? You know, all of these questions that you can help them with. Nobody wants the accountability. Everyone wants the results, though.
I love that everyone wants the results part, because I say it's what everyone, nobody wants, but everybody needs. And I think that you've done a great job of scripting that to sound a little more positive.
Yeah, here's the deal. From the coaching side of things, Tom said, if you're not mad at your coach at least once every 45 days, your coach isn't holding you enough to accountability. He always talks about stepping into your greatness. Your level of greatness is here, but there's a whole nother level that you can go to. And if someone doesn't expose you to new ideas or hold you accountable to what you're wanting to do, you can't step into that next level of greatness. And then as soon as you get there, there's a whole nother level of greatness that you can go to. So it's this constant improving piece, kind of what we were talking about at the beginning, Todd. If you change 1%, 1%, 1%, then you continue to get better. And then if we can do that from the mortgage side of things to help our agents get better, then their business grows. And obviously there's more opportunities there for us as the LOs.
Well, and I wish to clarify too. I mean, you were doing this for your agents before you became a coach at Tom Ferry, because some people are probably saying, "Oh, well, that's him. He's a coach. Like he can do it." And you actually had the same role with your client, with your referral partners previous to this, correct?
Absolutely. And I attended a lot of agent events before I even got into the Tom Ferry coaching world. I was like, all right, I got to go see the other side of the desk. What are they learning? What are they trying to challenges? What's the new stuff that's coming out and so forth? So that way I can have intelligent conversations. Because if you go and have an agent conversation, they're talking about Boomtown or whatever the other lead generation sources out there are, and your eyes kind of gloss over. They're like, okay, how much value is this guy going to be able to add, or gal be able to add to my world? That's what I always thought was like, what value can I add and what can I bring to them to help them grow their business? Again,
Right.
Little tweaks and changes.
Let me throw one more thing in before Deborah jumps in next, is that you just mentioned Boomtown. So like I can tell you, when I was producing, our biggest teams we work with all use Boomtown. And so what did I do? I registered for the Boomtown conference in South Carolina. It was like right after a hurricane. I didn't even know it was going to happen. And I hopped on a plane by myself and flew there. Ironically, I bumped into a couple of agents from the market that I knew that we didn't do business with. But again, I wanted to learn what they were doing at a higher level so that they would view me as more valuable, especially, one of the teams we worked with had another lender in there. Well, guess what? Their lender wasn't there. I was. And so I was able to come back, teach them what I learned, and then integrate more into their organization. So anytime you can learn alongside of them and then reinforce what they want to learn is always great.
Well, and I just want the loan officer who's listening to this, and it may be, you don't have any loans closing this month, or you may only consistently be closing one deal a month. Todd, your next operating system, I think it's operating system, is it 2.0? Is that what it's called?
2.0, right? We all need a better operating system. We all got to upgrade our operating system.
So what I think not a lot of people know is, that starts October 4th, which is a great time to kick off fourth quarter for 2022. So you can really win the year, but it's also based off production level on the entry fee, and just that little bit of accountability that can start. I mean, what's the entry? What if you're a new LO, how much does it cost, Todd?
It's on the honor system. And if you're a brand new LO, which was about 45% of the folks in the last 2 classes I did, it's $99 a month for 3 months. If you're LO who's been doing it for a long time, but you feel like you're reliving your first year for the 10th time or the 15th time or whatever that looks like, it's $199. And then shockingly, even though it was geared towards newer LOs and LOs struggling to consistently close 5 loans a month, about 25% of the people who get in are kind of rock stars. We had a bunch of $100 million producers in there, because I go through really the systems that I built my team on from, really nuts, soup to nuts, right? We really cover the whole piece of it, and they pay $299 a month for the 90 days. And so I think it's a great way because, there's so many great coaches out there like Tim and all these other folks. They're just more expensive. And I find that the people who are struggling to do 5 loans a month consistently aren't in a financial position to do that, especially this year. I just talked to one of the people who was one of the first ones to sign up. And she just said, gosh, I was crushing it last year and I'm really struggling this year. And where she said she's struggling the most is to build referral relationships. And so I used to do a separate class called Building Referral Relationships. And I redid the content. I had 2 groups I did at the beginning of the year. I've redone a little over 50% of the content to really focus on building referral relationships. So that'll be a big part of this next class. And then, of course, those of you are saying, well, wait, I just did your class, Todd, and now you're going to change it up. Just send me an email. I'm going to do a half price offer for anyone who's in the class, the last 2 classes to get into this next one. So you just go to I'll put it in there. It's WBN for Win by Noon operating system.com, but it's I don't know, I have a lot of fun doing it. I think those of you who are in it before, it's every week for the fourth quarter. It's about 1 hour of teaching, and then it's 30 minutes of Q&A. And so again, like, it seems like the top producers, that's what they focused on during the Q&A, because I'm super transparent and they were just asking me scripting questions, experience questions. How do you approach an agent? What's your answer when they say, do you want to, spend money? What's their answer when they say you don't want to violate RESPA? All these kind of crazy things. And it's, talk about Todd Unplugged. I guess that's really it, because that seems to be a highlight for a lot of the people who join.
Well, and so the next thing I wanted to say is what I like about your approach, Tim, and this, I did a video on this for the Modern Mortgage Summit account, is how well do you know your numbers and your conversion? And what if you tweaked just from either lead to application or application to contract, if you just increased by 10% and you focused on those gaps, or you focus on your real estate partners who you already have their trust from, and you go to an event like this and you can bring something back if you ask the right questions and you just tweak their conversion by 10%. Sometimes we focus so much on getting new leads, new business, new leads, instead of maybe just, taking some accountability, looking at your sales skills right now. Where do you need to grow professionally and sharpen, or maybe work on scripts with your team, and then give that back to your agent partners? And you'd be amazed of just a small little tweak and how much that can impact your business. So, all right, Tim, what's next?
So I just wanted to throw out a concept that as I was sitting in that room, I was taking notes, obviously, on my remarkable and doing whatever. And I wrote down 3 things that I kind of was trying to summarize the whole event. So I came back with the thoughts with this: dominant thoughts, massive action, and skills improvement. And what I saw on all of these agents that were on there, Tom was talking about, was how good is your morning routine to get your day started? Those dominant thoughts. What are the things that you are watching and listening to and implementing in your business? Are you positive? Are you negative? Are you watching constant negative news when you first get up in the morning or right before you go to bed? What are those thoughts that you're putting into your head to get you going down the right path? Second, massive action. We all know that there's less business to get out there right now. So what's the massive action steps that you're taking to get new opportunities? And then as you're taking that massive action, you've got to do an evaluation or a debrief on what's working and what's not working. So as Deborah just said, what are the new skills that you need to get better at? Maybe it's a better presentation on Mortgage Coach, or maybe it's a scripting dialogue, or maybe it's a better routine, or maybe it's workout. Whatever it is, there's all kinds of skills that we can continue to tweak and change. Then if you get the skills developed, then you get more dominant thoughts that, hey, I'm going in the right direction. This is working for me. Now I take more action, and the more action I take, then I get more opportunities, and then I can improve my skills just by the repetition of it. So I wrote down those 3 things, and hopefully everybody can take that back. Dominant thoughts, massive actions, and skill improvement was kind of one of my summaries that I had from the Tom Ferry event.
Well, and Tom had said your mornings are for opportunity. And that's kind of fits with the whole win by noon philosophy of what are you doing every morning of your must be dones, so that then the afternoon is when you're going on appointments and when you're managing the pipeline. But that was reoccurring in with every event with top producers. I feel like that's been a common theme. And I hate to say back to the basics, but I mean, he talked about picking up the phone and doing your database calls. And that even if you don't feel like it, so this was something that I liked, is nobody cares how you feel. You've got to get to work and you've got to do the job. So just because you don't feel like making the calls, make them. And sometimes taking the action is what makes you start feeling like you should take the action. Or what was that? Do you remember that quote, Tim?
Yeah, it was the guy from stage said, "F your mood."
Yeah.
And he swore. I won't swear on the thing here, but he's "F your mood." He's like, your action, by taking action, will get you into the mood to continue in the action to generate the revenue.
Yes.
Your action will get you into the mood to continue taking the action to generate the revenue. And his thought process is, nobody wants to make phone calls. Nobody wants to prospect, but the people that do it, and it was a consistent, repetitive theme from stage. All of these top producers are like, I do all of this stuff, marketing, lead gen, websites, Boomtown, all this kind of stuff. But the number one thing that I have to do every day is talk to people. Phone calls. They talk about 5-5-4-2 in the Tom Ferry ecosystem. 5 calls to people you don't know, 5 calls to people in your sphere, 4 lead follow-up calls, and 2 videos. Think about that if you did that every day. Talk to 5 people you don't know, 5 people in your sphere, 4 lead conversations, and 2 videos every day. You would have a very successful business. And most of the people that are on stage were crushing those numbers. That's like the minimum standard. They were making 20, 30 phone calls every day. They were talking about being in an Uber, making prospecting calls in an Uber from stage. So it came down to taking the action, doing it, whether you want to or not. Those brilliant basics, kind of like Todd, what you're kind of alluding to, nothing's changed. It's still relationship development. It's still prospecting. It's still marketing. Nothing's changed even with this new market that we're in.
But
Well,
you're talking
something
about
that
minimum standards though, right? I mean, that's a big thing. We've talked about that a lot in this community, right? You've got to have your own standard that you set for yourself. And when you have a coach, right? We talked about the 8-word accountability before. Your coach is going to hold you accountable to get you off the couch and whatever that minimum standard you set is. And so again, most people don't have a coach, for financial reasons, or they don't think they need a coach, which when you don't think you need one, then that should be your hint that you really do need one. And then I like the thing that Tim said that you should be mad at him once every 45 days. Jonathan Roach is my coach. I don't get mad at him, but maybe I need to have him push me harder. But ultimately it comes down to what's your minimum standard, right? And we talk about that a lot. And so I like that 5-5-4-2. Is there a different standard that you're coaching your mortgage coaching clients on, or is that the one you're giving them as well?
I want that to be the standard for them. And then as they grow and develop, back to what we were talking about, if you take the action, you're going to get better at the skills, then you're going to have more positive thoughts, and you're going to want to take more action, and then you're going to gain more skills. So it's kind of like this repetitive loop that you kind of get into. So first of all, is just taking the action and doing it and figuring out what conversation do you want to have? What questions are you going to get from that consumer? And the first time you get that question, you're probably not going to be great at it. But take the notes, debrief the conversation, take the notes, figure out what that question was, figure out a better dialogue that you're going to have next time that you have that question come up. And then that gives you the more confidence to go into the next call. So 5-5-4-2 is a minimum standard. More calls that you can do, the better off you're going to be, obviously.
Well, and you can't grow confidence without taking consistent action, because through the consistent action is what helps you learn and identify where you can improve. So I think people will just build it up in their head and they make it either more complicated. I was speaking to a loan officer after the second day, and I had mentioned the 5-5-4-2. In fact, the only thing I added to that was a 1 at the end, which is either a CMA a day or a TCA a day. And, every day they talked about doing the CMA a day challenge. And one of the real estate agents that was there that I knew had said, oh, the CMA a day doesn't work. And I'm like, well, I would beg to differ, because I've heard several success stories, even one that we had just talked about Monday from an agent in Orlando who had made $80,000 after implementing the CMA a day challenge in July. So it's, it comes down to approach. And when they had talked about, and Todd, I know you say do 20 calls a day. If you just did 20 calls a day, that would equal 100 for the week. And so I wrote down, here are some possible ideas. Following up on your CMA or TCA that you sent the day before. So if your goal is to do a TCA or CMA a day, you should be following up with those people, make sure they received it. Immediately starting with any birthdays that you have for the day. Maybe you have some sales boomerang alerts where you get those early in the morning. Those are potential phone calls. Following up on open houses. So if your agents had just hosted open houses, you're calling those people who had, signed in. Your networking events that you're attending. Do you have proactive strategy and list of how you're contacting them? The circle of cash flow. So if you're taking a loan app, and even if they qualify or they don't, if there's a divorce decree, then there's a divorce attorney that you could potentially call to build your, affinity partners into your business. So that's for every single lead you're having. There's possible opportunities of phone calls, housewarming parties, trainings. I mean, I could go on and on. So those are just some ideas to help you. If you're making 20 calls a day, out of all those that I just listed, I would beg that you could do more than 20, but start with the 5, 5, 4, 2, 1 and do the CMA or TCA a day with that.
I love that sharpening. And it kind of goes back to what you had said earlier about that you send out every week to your clients, an action plan list, right? So, we're a client, so at Win by Noon. So we get it. And then people need to take the action. But again, I think some people are going 2 videos a day. Like, what would I say? And so I think that's where, at least for me, the easy button is plug and play. Because not only do you do the work for me, but then you also send me the work that I'm supposed to do by myself. And maybe I just have to have you start holding me a little more accountable to that though, Deborah.
Well, we try to remove the excuses, because then it comes down to why and a lot of times it is an inner game thing. So Tim has grown the confidence by taking action on video. In fact, I had given him grief a couple months ago where I'm like, dude, this video we're posting is when your hair was long, because it was an older video that he had recorded and he was a little fluffy, but he still recorded it and still put it out there. And again, if you're really coming from a place of contribution and you're just trying to provide educational value because it could create impact, then the ego doesn't get in the way. You don't care how you look, you don't care how you sound, because the true motive at heart is you're sharing something not to sell, not to close, but to help Americans make better financial decisions. And so to me, you've got to really own the motive, and then it makes it easier to hit record, even if your hair's fluffy.
Thanks for bringing up my fluffy hair. I appreciate that. Yeah. I needed a haircut that day, Deborah. Needed a haircut before that. And here's one of those things. That was a batch video shoot day for me. So I just went and we probably shot 12 videos that one morning. And then I have that content out there to be able to send to my clients, put on YouTube, whatever I'm doing with it, to be able to do that. And I just did it. It was the questions that I needed to get answered that day. And my hair wasn't perfect because I couldn't get into my lady that cuts my hair. And I'm just did it, whatever. And guess what? No one knows that as they look at the video that my hair was long and that it needed to be cut. They just looked at it and thought it was the Tim Lamb. That's who they didn't think anything different of it. So
yeah, but other people would have not gone. Other people would have used their hair as an excuse, right? I mean, that's that's always it. You want to look good, right? I mean, I recorded 8 podcasts with realtors yesterday, and I made sure on Wednesday I got my hair cut. But if you remember back during COVID, I mean, I had to stand like this because my hair was like this tall. My wife was cutting it, and it just was what it was.
No one's ever sent me a DM that said, hey, I couldn't listen to the content that you were providing because your hair was bad, or I didn't like the shirt that you were wearing. I've never got that DM. So quit worrying about those little things and just provide the value. As Deborah said, if you're going into this thinking about yourself, you're doing it all wrong. You should be thinking about your avatar clients. A lot of times I put the video, I'll put a little post-it note like, I'm talking to Susie when I do the video, or I'm talking to Kevin, or I'm talking to a first-time home buyer when I'm doing this. And then my brain instantly goes to, all right, if I'm gonna have a conversation with Susie, how would I talk with Susie? Or how would I talk to this first-time home buyer and answer their question and so forth? Put your brain on what you should be identifying as the target and then go at it that way. Super simple little hack, but it makes it super easy for you to do the video if you're thinking about who you should be talking to, because just looking at a screen and talking to it, your phone or this setup that I have or whatever is just kind of weird. But if you put Susie on there, now you're like, okay, I'm having a conversation with Susie or Kevin or whoever it is. And now it makes it a little bit easier to have that conversation.
So if it helps, write this on a sticky note and write the word ego, put an X over the E, because I always say if you take the E out of ego and just go and take action and record, it will help you tremendously down the road. If you look at some of the videos that even I first created, or even Denise, her very first video on YouTube, it looked like the Blair Witch Project. I mean, it was dark. It was 100 cuts later because I'm hysterically laughing. I'm recording with my iPhone. She had a big bruise on the side of her cheek because she had just had her wisdom teeth pulled. And in the back, at the time we were the DonahueTeam.com, and she wrote it on a whiteboard, and she spelled Donahue wrong for the DonahueTeam.com. And I was like, Denise, you got to take this down. You spelled our last name wrong. I mean, people can't spell it as it is. And he's like, oh, it's okay. Like, she didn't care. And it's still up today. And so everyone has to start. And that was, I can't remember the speaker who mentioned it, but we all suck in the beginning. You're going to suck. Get over that. And know that you're going to suck, embrace the suck so that then you can become better. Because the one, and I made a post about this, what Phil Jones had shared was better is greater than best. And sometimes we get so focused on being the best that we don't realize just getting better, kind of goes back to your 1% better each day, will always trump over time being best. So Tim, let's talk about who your favorite presenter was, or which one did you most resonate with that you'd like to share?
Before we go there, I just want to throw out another thing that in my notes that I wrote down. It was choose your hard. So it's hard being out of shape, but it's also hard being in shape, choosing the right foods and that, that type of thing. It's hard being poor, but it's also hard being rich because you got different problems if you're rich versus being poor and so forth. It's hard to do a video, but it's hard also not to do a video. It's easy to do that. So we always are having to choose our hard. What do we want to, do we want to have our bank account full of revenue to be able to do what we want to do? Or do we want to have our bank account either way? They're both hard. So choose your hard to be able to do those types of things. So that was just one other thing that we're doing. So what was your question? Sorry, I had to throw that in there for 2 seconds.
Real quick. So Paul had asked in the chat, and guys, if any of you have questions for Tim, make sure you throw them in the chat and we'll address them. But Paul had asked, where would an LO find local real estate agent events? So how would you answer that, Tim?
We'll go to a variety of different things. First of all, I'd go to your board and figure out go to their website, call the board and figure out what they're doing locally to be able to figure that out. Go to your state, because the state's always going to have stuff that they're doing for CU classes and those types of things. I would talk to the individual brokers at the offices that are the managers, say, hey, what kind of events are you guys doing? What kind of events are you attending? And then just stay on the national scene as well. Google top real estate events in my area. Or go to the Tom Ferry page, or go to any other coaches pages out there to be able to do that. So that's probably where I would start, and just post it also on the Mortgage Coach page and be able to say, hey, what events are you going to this year that I want to learn this? And then people are gonna be like, I'm going to the Forward event, I'm going to Sales Mastery, I'm going to the Tom Ferry event, whatever it is. Post it on the YouTube channel or post it on the Facebook page. People will be like, I'm going here. You want to join me? And then now you got a new networking buddy that you can work with, or accountability partner potentially.
All right, so 2 ideas off of what Tim said. Let me add one more. Call your local title rep, right? Because sometimes when you call the broker, they're not going to let you in their office because maybe they've got a closed office to lenders. But title reps who actually, guess what, know lots of real estate agents, and they need to put on classes. And so you can ask them, are you doing a class that I can come be part of? And so just offer that up. And then I think the other part is just think about doing your own. And again, that seems really scary, but it's just not that difficult, because you could do your own based off of some content that you've learned on some mortgage coach call that you could turn into, a conversation. The second thing is, you mentioned Sales Mastery. And so those of you who are going to Sales Mastery or thinking about going to Sales Mastery, it's the 30th anniversary. You can use the code SM for Sales Mastery, WBN for Win by Noon. I don't get anything from it. It's not an affiliate code, but it's a discount code for you to save $500 off your ticket. SMWBN.com. Dave and I are going. Deborah, you're going, right?
Yep.
And Dave and I are going to do our, we'll invite Deborah to be part of it. We've been doing a traditional kickoff toast happy hour at Sales Mastery. So it's just for you guys in the Mortgage Coach Win by Noon community. So stay tuned for that. We'll be doing that again. We've already discussed it. We just haven't finalized the time and the plans, but my guess is it'll be whatever that first day is that we all arrive. But again, think about if you can go to an event like that, and then you can, again, take the nuggets, just like Tim took nuggets back to his real estate agents. You can go back and take those same loan officer learned nuggets and convert them to a real estate a real estate conversation. So I think that that is, I think that's key. So I know you mentioned, I'm going to put you on the spot for a second, Deborah. So you asked Tim who is his favorite speakers. Give me like your top speaker and why. I know you already mentioned Phil Jones. Who's your second favorite
I was
speaker?
going to say Phil Jones, hands down, just the magic and influence of word choice. And I mean, this is something that I have followed and believed in for years. I mean, even just your self-talk and the words that you use for yourself. But he did, I think it was the Titan panel where they were role playing or going through scripts. And what I love about Phil is he just called things out live of how you could tweak little things or phrases to make a bigger impact. And one of the things he mentioned, and I just caution people that when you are practicing your scripts, what it felt like is listening to some of those presentations, it felt like punch for punch. And he had said this, like he had asked a question from a client standpoint, and it was like the agent had rehearsed that script so well that they almost were coming back at it with another question. And so you got in this battle of just control of punch for punch. And whereas he really encouraged people to ask deeper questions of why. Like if someone were to ask you, tell me why we would need to pay 6% for a realtor commission versus using someone like Open Door, because their concern would be netting the most amount possible. Well, instead, like the traditional real estate agent would just go right back to the commission objection script that they had rehearsed, instead of asking, help me understand what you know about Open Door and their commissions and maybe about ours as well. Like, and so I just loved how, going back to the basics of being a human and not a salesperson, and actually caring, not pretending you care, but finding out what is important to them and why. Because sometimes it's the question behind the question, or they're not revealing all of their cards and they want to kind of skirt tail around what the real issue is. So then you end up addressing the smoke and not the fire. So I loved him. And the person that I thought did best at practicing this was Glenda Baker. So I've always loved Glenda Baker. She's big on TikTok. And so any of you who think that TikTok is only for kids where you have to dance, I highly encourage you to go on TikTok and watch Glenda Baker, because she does a great job of being professional and really executing what Tim said, going over the frequently asked questions and just addressing them. She doesn't do any of those cutesy dances or any of those trending, items where you're pointing, but she just came across like a human and as if you could trust her. And so at the end of the day, you have to have trust, you have to have likability, you have to have credibility. And social helps with all of those before you even get the opportunity of having an at-bat, which is what most people don't. That's the real ROI. It's like, how are you, if someone were referred to you, you're missing out on the opportunity with your social to create the instant credibility, like trust, to then get someone to take action to feel safe enough and comfortable enough to contact you on a lead form. And on your, where you look where your business comes from, is it going to say, oh, your social media every time? No, it may say the person who actually gave them your name, like the real estate partner, but that may not have been what influenced them in the first place to contact you. So I would say, I loved Phil and Glenda. What about you, Tim?
Phil was by far my hands down. Obviously, Tom spoke a bunch, which he's a superstar. So Tom, number one, and then Phil Jones would be number two. And what Phil Jones I loved was he would take the words that someone said and just tweak them a little bit. And what it did, it moved it from like, I'm telling you something to I'm asking you something, or I'm talking at you, or I'm inviting you into the conversation, or I'm telling you something, or I want to learn more about what you understand about this. So like Deborah said, there was like a couple of the agents that were up there on the panel, which was fabulous. I mean, these guys are rock star real estate agents, and they're doing live role play on stage in front of 5,000 people. First of all, that would freak everybody out here that's on this call, like doing it in front of 5,000 people. And then Phil was just sitting back there taking some notes, and he was letting the conversation happen. And then he sat there and said, how about if you said this? How about if you changed that word or answered this additional question to figure out what the client really needed? Again, back to what I said earlier, we're kind of shotgun approaching everything and hoping that something hits, versus Phil was like, all right, let's laser in on what the challenge is, what the opportunity is, what the concern is from this client. And if you just tweak the words or ask a better question, they divulge it out. And now you've got what you need. I'll say close the sale, but to service the client at the highest level. And it was this word scripting mastery. And the book that he wrote was Exactly What to Say. Exactly What to Say by Phil Jones. It's a must read. I actually listened to it on the plane on the way home last night. And he's got 21 phrases, if I remember correctly, on words to say to change the dialogue, to go deeper into the conversation, to go deeper into the relationship. In my opinion, it's a must read book. And then think about how can I execute that for the objections I get, whether it's Realtor related, whether it's client related, your mom related, whatever it is, you could use this dialogue in these conversations at anything. He was hands down by far the best guy.
I'm reading the real estate agent version of that too. So he's got a version of that he wrote with some folks on the real estate side as well. And when I saw him speak at a mastermind, ironically, I was a Realtor Mastermind I was invited to by Kevin Kaufman, who you guys have seen on here before and is going to be our guest. I forgot one Friday in September, he'll be on here, and he brought Phil in to speak, and he kind of introduced him. It was funny, and he's like, yeah, so he sold over 1.1 million copies of this book, and Phil's like, no, 1.2. Like, I mean, the guy has sold just of his main book, the original one, over 1 million copies, which for a business book is kind of unheard of. I mean, it's just a really good conversation book. And I think that's one of the things that, you kind of just nailed it, Tim. I mean, you had the best of the best on stage giving their scripts, and then he came in and sharpened them even better. So we can all use improvement in the way that we speak, I guess is the bottom line, I would say it.
Yeah. Well, this back to what Deborah was talking about earlier.
Just
think about if you just asked a different question and got a 5% improvement in your conversion.
All right, I'm asking what the name of the book is again, so I will try to find
Exactly What to Say by Phil Jones.
Exactly What to Say by Phil Jones. And he's got a great accent too, so.
Yeah.
Super guy. And
he also has one for kids called Magic Words, which I ordered that one. Just as I was sitting there, I'm like, I'm ordering it because this is good for any conversation that you're having with your spouse, with your kids. It's really taking on the active listening approach of listening, observing, validate what they say, expand off of it, when too many times we go straight into talking about ourselves.
Yeah.
Thanks for the reminder, since I talked about myself earlier.
I want to go back to one thing that's from the Tom Ferry event. At the event, they gave away a playbook, which is basically an agent wrote out a dissertation, if you will, on their strategy with YouTube, their strategy with open houses, their strategy with whatever. And there's like 18 of them or something like that if you attended the event. Take that information from these events and do a lunch and learn with that. I've got enough stuff to do a lunch and learn for the next year or whatever I want to call it type of event. And guess what? I don't need to be the expert in any of those topics. I need to bring the idea, the concept, and something that can help my partners grow their business. Then if it works for them, then they can go become the expert, or you can go along with them to figure that out. So I think sometimes the LOs have a hesitation like, well, I'm not an expert in YouTube, so why would I do a lunch and learn about YouTube? All right, let's get everybody in a room and let's leverage 2 or 3 people that are really good at YouTube in the room, plus all the data that you got from this Tom Ferry event, and so whatever event that you go to, and do some education around that. But you don't need to be the expert. Put on the event. And as we all know, whoever stands up in front of the stage has the most influence in the room. So be able to share all that content with them. It's a great strategy to be able to utilize.
So one of the things I want my team to do, so I'm just going to put Deborah on the spot, is I want to hire Deborah to come out and teach social media to the real estate agents that my team works with. Do you do that virtual too, Deborah, or do you only do it live?
I do it virtually. I will say live is always better because it's hands-on, and I usually I connect my phone and we literally go through the strokes, because what I never want to teach and it's like through a fire hose, and then they go back and they have small issues because maybe their camera or their microphone wasn't set up with their phone correctly. And it's those little roadblocks that get people overwhelmed, respecting all the different demographics and their use and how comfortable they are with technology. It's like, I want to make sure that when they leave, they can execute and implement right away. Like, again, removing all excuses and just being able to take action. But, I just did one with Chicago Title this week. and I had done one 2 weeks prior, and I already had to update them because there were so many changes that just occurred once again with Instagram, that everything that we had shared 2 weeks ago was now going to have to be tweaked a little bit because of, the algorithm changes. And so it just like with the loan officer who's studying the interest rate market and inventory and price reductions, we have to do the same thing. I mean, every morning when we win by noon, we're also looking at rates and, the bond market and stocks, but also what updates have occurred and what things have changed and where do we need to pivot, and looking at analytics. I mean, that to me was also something that we heard from the top producers on stage, is they still take the time to study the market and look at their hot sheets so that they are the most knowledgeable in their market. So if someone were to ask a question about a property or whatnot, they're going to know the answer to it and have an intelligent conversation or an opinion based off data, not just drama, so that they can lead people down a better path based off what they've seen from the past and where they think the future is headed.
Boom. That's dang good. All right, I can't wait. So hold me accountable to make sure that we schedule
Okay.
something. In fact, I'm going to schedule it where it's a live presentation / content day. So I'm going to, I'll squeeze more into one. I don't know if you allow that, but I'm just going to ask for that.
Yeah. You ask and you shall receive. That was another reoccurring thing, is you have to ask the questions to get the results that you want or the answers that you need. If you don't ask, and I used to be bad about this. Even in school, like I never wanted to ask the question, probably because school teaches you over time, when you get wrong answers, it's bad and it's failure. And so you don't ask anymore in fear of being wrong. But I've now gotten more selfish and I guess more secure internally to ask those questions, regardless if it reveals that I may not know a lot.
Well, my kids say I'm shameless because I don't mind asking for anything. I mean, I'm not rude or anything like that, but I just feel like, again, you're not going to get anywhere if you don't. I mean, worst case is they say no. Like I just ordered a kit from Ryan Graham's, a call upgrade, and it was charging me something funky. So I just said, hey, how do I avoid that? And he's kind of like, well, dude, you just got to hit the next thing and put in your address and they'll know not to charge you that. But I'm like, all right, that's great. But I still at least asked first because I wanted to save the money on, what I was doing. So, all right, so we just have a couple of minutes. And so let's go into wrap up mode. And I'm going to ask Tim first, then you, Deb, and then I'll close it out. What Dave always asks me. So Tim, you're a coach. Like, what are your action plans? What do you want to see people do as they leave this call to take what they just learned from you and make them money?
Two things. Number one, look at our business from the real estate agent's perspective. Attend some Realtor events so that way you can help them grow their business. If you can be a partner in their business, what they're struggling with or what they want to improve on, they will look more highly at you in the relationship building side of things. And go ahead.
That is good. Keep going.
And the second thing is you've got to ask for the business. That was one of the top themes at the conference, was the top people ask for the business in order to get the opportunity to grow the relationship. So if you're not out there asking for the business or asking for the referrals and just thinking, I did a good job, they'll come back or refer me, you're losing out on opportunities. You've got to teach your clients how to refer you, what's the best way to do it, that they know your business as referrals, and then ask for it. You're really good at what you do. People need your services. They need your education. They need your expertise. And if we don't ask for the business, in my opinion, they're going to get a subpar LO that isn't as good as you, or isn't as good as me, or isn't as good as anybody else. But if we don't ask, then those people can never get the experience that they deserve. So ask for the business, educate yourself on real estate agents, and then go out there and get those relationships because they're out there to be had.
Love it.
Okay, so these are my two. Don't be the secret LO. So you are worth more than being kept a secret. And if you need social media help or you need some coaching or some video editing services, you guys know how to contact me. So know that your advice matters, but we can't be a secret. And then number two, it's hard to get where you want to go and be if you don't know where you're at. So if you're not tracking your numbers to be able to then see where those small little opportunities may be, then go to winbynoon.com, order yourself a planner. In fact, I would encourage LOs right now to even order 10 real estate edition planners for your real estate partners and make it where you launch this starting fourth quarter. And every first Wednesday of the month at noon, you guys meet, you bring your planners and you're tracking your business and your numbers, because sometimes we make these assumptions or these stories of where we think we need to be or where the business is coming from when we don't even really actually know. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. If you get the planners, it helps you and guide you with what exactly you need to track and how to look at those conversions. But know your numbers and then look to improve, even if it's just 1% more every single day. But you won't know unless you track your numbers.
Love that. Love that. Thanks for the Win by Noon plug. We have, it's a huge percentage of our real estate agent planners are actually bought in conjunction with loan officers who use Win by Noon. So one is it holds them accountable and holds their agents accountable because they're working together on that. So that's always a great opportunity. All right. So my two things are, one is set your standard. Oh, nice job, Tim. Look at Tim's holding up his planner. See, look at
I
Do
that.
we
don't
want to
have
do
my
like an
box yet.
opening? Do we want to do like a
Look at that.
package opening deal
You
here?
know,
This
that's
is my planner
that's
that
Q4,
came.
right? Yep. So people Q4
Yeah.
planners are on the way out the door as we speak. And you already have yours. So I would say number one is what's your standard, right? So whether it's going to be the 5, 5, 4, 2, 1 now adopted, improved by Deborah, or I'm really focused right now on 20 quality conversations a day. Like you should be talking to 20 people, clients, leads, referral partners, prospective partners per day. And then that's number one. Like you need to set a standard and you need to live that standard. And then number two is kind of really what Tim already said. I mean, find an event. Like you need to figure out an event today before the end of the day. Pick an event that within the next 2 weeks, even better if it's next week, that's in your local market that you're going to attend, so that you can do what Tim said. You can call them and invite them to go with you. If they can't go with you, you can ask them what are the top things that they would like to learn about, and Tim said it before, like where are they struggling and where are they finding success, so you can help with that. And then it also gives you the follow-up if they don't go. But there's just nothing better than the camaraderie going with them, right? If it's a morning thing, meet them for coffee beforehand or go to lunch afterwards. You just have this great opportunity to connect. And that is what it's all about. And then of course, the other thing is do what Tim and Deb just said to do. So Tim, it was so great to see you again. I mean, I've loved watching your journey, appreciate you being part of the Win by Noon community. And I just love what you're giving back. And so we're just grateful for you. And of course, Deb, always adding value. Look at this. See, you guys can't see it because the camera wasn't on her, but Deborah was just making some good faces. So let's
This is the real behind the scenes with Deb. We make it fun. Thank you,
Yeah,
Tim. You are such a true professional. I know I texted you late last night for this and you said yes. And so what a gift that this interview was. If you guys found it helpful, make sure you like and subscribe to this channel. Add your questions in the comments. I mean, like Tim said, he's truly a coach, a teacher, and an educator at heart. So he will also help answer any questions. And, y'all win your day, win your week. We've only got a couple days left of August, guys.
Exactly.
All right, everyone. Great seeing you. We look forward to seeing you next week here in the Mortgage Coach YouTube channel.